Racist teacher humiliates black girl in front of the class, but goes into panic upon discovering her mother's true identity. Emily Carter, a 10-year-old young artist, enters a new private school in Connecticut, where elitism and prejudice are buried beneath a facade of respect and discipline. Daughter of one of the region's most influential businesswomen, she keeps her privileged background a secret, wanting to be accepted like any other child. However, what should have been a new beginning turns into a nightmare when the insecure and prejudiced teacher, Sarah Whitmore, decides to attack the girl, humiliating her in front of her peers. And how will Vanessa Carter, Emily's mother, react upon discovering the pain her daughter faces? Emily has always been a sensitive girl full of dreams. With a natural talent for art, she saw drawing and painting as a way to express her emotions and her view of the world. Since she was little, her mother, Vanessa, encouraged her to be strong and to be proud of who she was. Vanessa, a successful businesswoman, instilled values of inclusion and respect, but decided to keep her financial circumstances a secret so that Emily could integrate without receiving special treatment. So when Emily entered the new school, she was excited but also apprehensive. The atmosphere, however, was not welcoming. As soon as she entered the classroom, she felt judgmental and cold stares from the teacher and some classmates. On the first day, Emily did her best to adapt. She sat at a table, watching the other students interact while trying to fit in. However, the teacher, as soon as she saw her, made a point of highlighting her differences. Sarah Whitmore, a strict woman who believed that discipline was the key to success, did not hesitate to criticize the girl. Her impression of Emily was that of a student who did not fit the school's standard. The atmosphere in the classroom became tense when, after an artistic presentation, the teacher made a sarcastic comment about Emily's appearance and background, leaving her embarrassed and in tears. The pain of humiliation became a burden that Emily carried with her, even when she returned home. In her elegant residence, where the walls were adorned with works of art and books, the girl found solace in confiding in Vanessa. Her mother, seeing the sadness in her daughter's eyes, felt her heart break. The idea that someone had hurt Emily's self-esteem enraged her. Vanessa knew she needed to act, and so she decided to schedule a meeting with the school administration and the teacher, determined to demand respect and justice. Meanwhile, teacher Sarah, upon being informed of Emily's mother's identity, began to realize the gravity of her actions. The prejudice she harbored led her to underestimate the girl, but now, faced with the influential businesswoman, her certainties began to crumble. The meeting at the school would become a turning point, not only for Emily, but for everyone involved. Vanessa would demand an apology and reflection on the institution's practices, challenging the elitist mentality that permeated the school environment. In this context, Emily's story unfolds, bringing to light themes such as racism, prejudice, and the struggle for dignity and respect. With each step, she would become a symbol of resistance and overcoming, showing that the strength of a young girl can provoke profound changes in a world filled with inequalities. And thus the narrative of Emily and Vanessa intertwines with that of Sarah, leading everyone to a necessary reflection on their attitudes and values. Emily sat in the corner of the schoolyard, watching the other students laugh and play. Life there seemed so different from her old school, where diversity was celebrated and differences were seen as a wealth. In this new reality, the brown-haired girl with curious eyes felt like a stranger. The critical gaze of teacher Sarah Whitmore still echoed in her mind, and the wound of recent humiliation felt open, throbbing with pain each new day. The first challenge she faced was not only the teacher's rejection, but also the indifference of some classmates. During lunch, while trying to fit in, she noticed how some children ignored her, opting to gather in groups that seemed to close around an invisible barrier. That feeling of isolation made her question whether she was really worthy of acceptance. In her mind, the idea that her background could be an impediment to friendship began to solidify. As the days passed, Emily's loneliness became a heavy burden. Her mother, Vanessa, had always encouraged her to be true and confident, but now, in the face of hostility, she felt small and insecure. The desire to give up and retreat into her own world of art grew with each passing day. She often sought refuge in her sketchbook, where she expressed her emotions in lines and colors, but that was not enough to erase the pain. Meanwhile, in the classroom, the tension between the teacher and the student escalated. Sarah, who did not admit to mistakes, saw in Emily a symbol of everything she considered wrong. To her, the girl's arrival was a threat to the control she had established over her students. The disdain she showed only heightened Emily's anxiety, as she wondered if she would be able to stay there. An internal voice challenged her. "Why don't you stand up for yourself?" And it was in that moment of inner doubt that a new friend emerged. Sophia, a girl with a kind gaze and welcoming smile, noticed the sadness in Emily's eyes. With a past that also included challenges, Sophia had become a silent advocate for the excluded. She sat next to Emily during an art class and, without hesitation, spoke about how she too had faced difficulties fitting in. This friendship blossomed slowly, but Emily's insecurity made her hesitate to fully open up. She feared that by revealing her true identity, Sophia might drift away. With Sophia's support, Emily began to find the strength to confront the teacher. On a particularly difficult day, when Sarah made yet another of her sarcastic remarks, something inside Emily shifted. The pain was no longer bearable. Instead of remaining silent, she decided it was time to act. With her heart racing and her voice trembling, she requested the floor. "Teacher, I just want to be heard," she said, looking into the teacher's eyes, challenging her to see beyond her own insecurities. Sarah's response was a mix of contempt and surprise, but Emily's determination caught her off guard. However, what should have been a moment of overcoming became a new obstacle. The teacher, irritated by the student's boldness, decided to retaliate. From that moment on, Sarah imposed stricter rules and publicly criticized Emily, turning her academic life into a true battleground. Emily felt that the situation was becoming unsustainable. The fear of failing and being humiliated again overwhelmed her. At the same time, the pressure to stand out in the school environment became oppressive. During art classes, where she had once felt free and creative, anxiety now paralyzed her. Her drawings, which had previously been a refuge, began to symbolize her internal struggle. One day, upon receiving a low grade on an assignment, the girl found herself on the verge of tears, her heart heavy with the feeling of failure. At this point, her friendship with Sophia became a beacon of hope. The girl, noticing Emily's growing sadness, encouraged her to share her art in a school exhibition. "You have an amazing talent. We should show it to everyone," suggested Sophia. The idea of the exhibition sparked a small flame of hope in Emily, but the fear of being rejected again made her hesitate. The desire to protect herself led her to doubt whether she should take the risk one more time. Meanwhile, Vanessa, Emily's mother, was preparing for the school meeting. Her determination to defend her daughter was palpable. She knew she needed to be Emily's voice, but she also understood that the road ahead would be challenging. The elitism rooted in the school would not be easily undone, and she was aware that she would face resistance. However, Vanessa was not willing to let her daughter continue to suffer in silence. The fight for dignity and respect was just beginning, and Emily's courage, fueled by her friendship and her mother's love, would become crucial in facing future challenges. Emily felt the weight of expectation on her shoulders as she prepared for the school meeting. Her heart raced, and a knot in her stomach accompanied her. The idea of showing her art in the exhibition was still stuck in her mind, but the fear of failing and being the target of more criticism paralyzed her. Every time she thought about the possibility of exposing her work, the memory of teacher Sarah's disapproval haunted her. The pain of being ignored and ridiculed was not something she wanted to relive. Sophia, noticing Emily's hesitation, tried to encourage her. "You need to believe in yourself," said her friend, her voice gentle yet firm. "Your drawings are beautiful and have something to say. Don't let anyone dim your light." But Sophia's words, though well-intentioned, barely penetrated the cloud of insecurity surrounding Emily. She wondered if she really had what it took to stand out. The idea of being exposed to criticism again felt like an unbearable risk. Before we continue with this emotional story, take a moment to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any stories, and let us know which city you're watching this video from in the comments. Meanwhile, the tension between Emily and teacher Sarah continued to grow. With each new class, Sarah seemed more determined to make the student's life a living hell. One day during a group activity, Sarah decided that Emily could not work with the other students. "You need to learn to behave, Emily," the teacher said, in a tone that made it clear that any attempt to protest would be futile. This public humiliation made Emily's face burn with shame. The disapproving looks from her classmates seemed to cut even deeper. The pressure became unbearable, and Emily began to feel more and more distant from Sophia. The conversations that had once been filled with laughter and dreams were now heavy and filled with uncomfortable silences. The friendship, which had once been a refuge, now felt like a distant memory. Sophia tried to reach out to Emily, but the girl often closed herself off in her own pain. "I'm sorry, Sophia, but I'm so confused," Emily said, her voice almost a whisper. "I don't know if I can take it anymore." As the days went by, the situation at school began to affect Emily's emotional health. The nights were long, and insomnia accompanied her, while worries about school and the exhibition consumed her. The sketchbook, which had once been an escape, now became a constant reminder of her insecurities. She looked at the blank pages, feeling that she no longer had the courage to draw. The idea of showing her works in the exhibition seemed a distant dream, a goal that became more unattainable with each passing day. At the meeting, Vanessa, Emily's mother, spared no effort in defending her daughter. She was direct and assertive, addressing teacher Sarah about the unfair treatment Emily received. "She is a sensitive and talented child, and no one should have the right to treat her this way," Vanessa stated, her voice firm and resolute. But the teacher's response was cold and defensive. "I'm just preparing her for reality. Life isn't easy, and she needs to learn that," Sarah said, as if Emily's suffering was just a necessary part of growth. What should have been a moment of support turned into a new challenge for Emily. The humiliation she had felt at school now extended to home, and social pressure began to manifest in her health. The girl felt torn between the desire to please her mother and the wish to protect herself. What was supposed to be a safe and welcoming environment was becoming an arena of emotional conflict. Sophia, noticing Emily's difficulty, decided it was time to act. One day after school, she invited her for a walk. "Let's go to the park. You need some time to breathe and think," Sophia suggested. In the green fields, away from school and daily pressures, the two friends began to talk. Sophia shared her own experiences of rejection and loneliness. "When I felt lost, I discovered that art is a way to express what I can't put into words," Sophia said, looking into Emily's eyes with understanding. Her friend's words began to resonate within Emily, and a spark of hope ignited again. In a moment of vulnerability, Emily decided to share her deepest feelings. "I'm afraid of failing, and I'm afraid you'll distance yourself from me if I'm not good enough," she confessed, tears starting to slip down her face. Sophia held Emily's hand. "You are good enough just the way you are. It doesn't matter what others say. Let's face this together," she affirmed with determination. This conversation became a turning point. With Sophia's support, Emily began to reconsider the idea of exposure. She realized that her art was not just about other people's acceptance, but a way to express herself and find freedom. The friendship she had with Sophia solidified, and together they began planning the presentation of their works. The fear was still present, but now it was filled with hope. Emily felt stronger, knowing she wasn't alone on this journey. The struggle was far from over, but the determination to move forward began to form in her heart. On that sunny afternoon in the park, as the leaves danced gently in the wind, Emily felt that a new chapter was about to open in her life. The conversation with Sophia had been like a breath of hope, but something deeper was forming within her. Her friend's words echoed in her mind. "You are good enough just the way you are." It was a simple yet powerful affirmation that began to dismantle the barriers Emily had built around herself. As they walked, Emily saw a group of children playing with paint and brushes at an art table. They laughed and had fun, completely oblivious to the criticisms and expectations that often surrounded art. One of them, a girl with curly hair and a broad smile, was creating a colorful mural, and Emily's eyes lit up at the sight of the freedom and joy that art brought. A growing desire to join those children began to emerge. "Shall we do something?" Sophia asked, noticing the change in Emily's gaze. "We can grab some paint and create our own mural." The idea was tempting, but a wave of insecurity hit her. The fear of making a mistake made her hesitate, but looking at Sophia's confident face, she decided to take a step toward the unknown. They approached the table, where one of the monitors welcomed them with a warm smile. With her hands covered in paint, Emily began to loosen up. The fear of failure was still there, but as she started to paint, something magical happened. The colors began to flow, and along with them, her emotions. Each brushstroke was a cry for freedom, a way to express everything she had kept inside. Emily realized that art wasn't just about being perfect, it was about feeling alive. As they painted, Sophia began to share stories about her own fears and failures. "Once, I presented a piece that I thought was amazing, but the teacher said it wasn't good enough. I was devastated. But then I realized that what mattered was that I liked what I did," Sophia shared, smiling as she reminisced. This revelation was a shock to Emily. She had always thought that mistakes were synonymous with failure, but now she began to see that they could be learning opportunities. At that moment, something within Emily changed. She understood that true success wasn't about being perfect in the eyes of others, but rather finding satisfaction and joy in what she did. The teacher, Sarah's criticisms, seemed smaller and less intimidating. What mattered now was her own perception of worth. With this new perspective, she realized she could use her difficult experiences as fuel for her art. As the mural took shape, the connection between the two friends deepened. They laughed, shared secrets, and supported each other. Emily and Sophia's friendship became a pillar of strength that helped her face her fears. The idea of exposing her art at school began to seem less frightening and more like an opportunity to share who she really was with others. Emily realized that even if someone didn't like her work, it wouldn't change her worth as an artist or as a person. Time passed quickly, and when the mural was almost complete, Emily felt a wave of satisfaction and accomplishment. The paint on her hands was no longer just a form of expression, but a representation of her personal triumph. She had confronted her fears and allowed herself to fail, and that made her stronger. The event in the park was not just a day of fun, it was a revelation that helped her rewrite her narrative. Looking at the mural, a feeling of freedom enveloped her. Emily realized that Sarah's criticisms, though painful, would not define her future. She had the power to choose how to see herself and how to deal with adversity. The pain of rejection had transformed into the courage to move forward. Now, with Sophia's support and the new perspective she had on herself, she was ready to face the exhibition. The gentle wind whispered through the trees, as if applauding Emily's newfound determination. The journey wouldn't be easy, but she knew that with art as her ally and Sophia's friendship by her side, she would be able to face any challenge that arose. The mural they had created that day would be a symbol of her resilience and a reminder that true value lay in being true to herself. In the following week, Emily felt different. The mural she had created with Sophia in the park was not just an explosion of colors, it was a representation of her inner journey. As she walked through the school hallways, she noticed how the vibrant colors on the walls seemed to reflect the new light she had found within herself. It was as if every admiring glance at the mural was an encouragement for her to continue making art, even though doubt was still a part of her life. However, the euphoria of her recent discovery soon collided with a harsh reality. As the day of the exhibition approached, anxiety took hold of Emily once again. The idea of showing her art to her classmates and teachers filled her with fear. She remembered Sarah's criticism, and although she knew she now had a new perspective on what success meant, insecurity still lingered in her mind. What would happen if no one liked what she had created? What if Sarah's words echoed in her head again, making her doubt herself? One afternoon, while drawing in her sketchbook, Emily decided to open up to Sophia. They were sitting on the park bench, the same one where it all had begun. "I am scared," Emily confessed, looking at the ground. What if no one likes my art? What if I fail again?" Sophia took a deep breath, as if she were carefully choosing her words. "Emily, you have faced so much and still got back up. Art is an extension of who you are. Some people may not understand, but that doesn't diminish its value. What matters is that you express yourself." Sophia's words were like balm to Emily's soul, but insecurity still haunted her. On the day of the exhibition, the atmosphere was filled with murmurs and laughter. Students gathered around the artworks, and Emily felt her heart race. Each step toward her creation felt like a test of courage. The vibrant colors of the mural seemed to fade, and she found herself frozen. The fear of being judged made her want to hide. Then, something unexpected happened. As she approached the mural, she saw a group of students admiring what she had done. They laughed and commented on how the colors blended in a unique way, just like the emotions she had poured into those brushstrokes. Emily felt a wave of warmth rise through her body. The smiles on their faces made her realize that perhaps her fear wasn't as strong as her passion. But not everything was easy. While she was talking to a group, a student she didn't know approached and made a cutting remark. "I think you just threw paint on the wall. That's not art." His words cut like a knife. The insecurity, which seemed to have diminished, came roaring back. Emily stepped away, feeling the urge to cry. Sophia, who was nearby, noticed the change in her friend's expression. With a firm look, she approached the boy. "You don't understand anything, do you? Art is about expressing and feeling, and Emily did that in an amazing way." Sophia's defense made Emily feel supported, but doubt still lingered in her mind. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. Her heart was restless, and the students' criticism echoed in her head. She remembered Sophia's words, but the wound was still raw. The fear of rejection felt bigger than the satisfaction of having expressed herself. To cope with this, she decided to find a quiet place and draw. Drawing had always been her way of finding peace. The pen gliding over the paper seemed to help calm her troubled thoughts. In the days that followed, Emily faced an internal battle. On one hand, there was the new strength she felt after the mural and Sophia's support. On the other, the critical voices surrounding her continued to arise. She knew she needed to find a balance. She decided that instead of focusing on the criticism, she would remember the joy that art brought her. The exhibition was a turning point, but it also brought new challenges. Emily began working on new pieces, each bolder than the last. She entered an art contest at school, even with insecurity following her. The desire to express herself and be heard was stronger than the fear of failing. Emily's journey was just beginning. Each day was an opportunity to rediscover herself and face new fears. Sophia's support and her passion for art became her greatest allies, and as she continued to paint, a new understanding blossomed within her. The true beauty of art was in being authentic, allowing herself to feel, and above all, never giving up on herself. In that park where it all began, Emily found herself in a moment of reflection. The days following the exhibition left her in a whirlwind of emotions. The joy of having shown her art mingled with the shadow of criticism. She felt torn between the confidence she had cultivated and the fear that still haunted her. The boy's words, though cruel, resonated in her mind. "I think you just threw paint on the wall. That's not art." That phrase seemed to have the power to erase all the vibrant colors she had put into her mural. But with Sophia's constant support, Emily began to realize that there was something deeper in her journey. In her conversations, Sophia always reminded her that art is not just about technique or acceptance, but about the genuine expression of who you are. With a new focus, Emily decided to turn her pain into motivation. Instead of letting herself be discouraged, she began to create again, each brushstroke becoming a step toward overcoming. As she worked on new pieces, Emily realized that art was becoming a form of therapy. Each day she would sit in her room, surrounded by paints and papers, and let her emotions flow. The colors she used were reflections of her experiences, her fears, and her achievements. She began to understand that the true value of art lay in authenticity, not in others' approval. This new perspective encouraged her to trust herself more. One morning, upon waking, Emily decided it was time to face her fears head-on. With a racing heart, she signed up for an art contest at school. The challenge seemed daunting, but something inside her whispered that it was a necessary step. She remembered the feeling she had when she saw her classmates admiring the mural and how it had made her feel alive. That was the feeling she wanted to experience again. The days that followed were intense. Emily worked hard on her new piece, a mural that represented the journey of overcoming she was living. Each stroke was a representation of her ups and downs, the struggle against insecurity, and the search for confidence. Art became a reflection of her internal transformation, and the idea of exposing this to others made her nervous, but also excited. When the day of the contest arrived, the atmosphere was filled with anticipation. Students and teachers gathered to admire the works, and adrenaline coursed through Emily's veins. As she approached her own creation, she felt a mix of anxiety and hope. The vibrant colors danced before her eyes, and for the first time she realized she was proud of herself, regardless of what others thought. During the exhibition, Emily saw familiar faces light up upon seeing her work. The support from Sophia, who was by her side, made her feel stronger. When a group of students approached, discussing the depth of her piece, she knew she had found her voice. Art was not just about recognition, it was about connecting with others, about telling stories and touching hearts. A few days later, while waiting for the contest results, Emily received a message from a teacher who had seen her mural. He praised her talent and invited her to participate in a community art project where she could share her experiences and help others express themselves. His words were a balm for her soul, and Emily felt that her struggle had been worth it. The criticism that had once discouraged her now seemed insignificant in light of the opportunity to make a difference. When the results were announced, Emily did not win first place, but that no longer mattered. She had gained something much more valuable: self-confidence and the courage to be authentic. The experience taught her that success is not measured solely by awards, but by the ability to rise after a fall, to transform pain into art and to inspire others along the way. Thus, Emily continued her journey, each brushstroke becoming a life lesson. She learned to see beauty in flaws and to embrace imperfection as part of her growth. And alongside Sophia, their friendship blossomed, strengthening them in every challenge they faced. Art became not only her passion, but also a way to connect and support others. Emily understood that true wealth lay in lived experiences, in cultivated friendships, and in the courage to express herself. The day of Emily's mural presentation finally arrived, and tension filled the air. The school auditorium was packed with students, teachers, and parents, all eager to see the works competing in the art contest. Emily felt her heart race with each moment as she observed the other pieces around her, each one more impressive than the last. There was an atmosphere of competition, but also admiration and support that enveloped the environment. Sophia was by her side, holding her hand and offering words of encouragement. Remember what you learned. Your art is an extension of yourself. Don't worry about the outcome. You've already won by having the courage to expose yourself like this. These words echoed in Emily's mind, but still a shadow of doubt lingered over her. The boy who had criticized her was still present in her memory, like an echo of insecurity. But in that moment, she decided she would not allow negativity to dominate her. When it was her turn to present, the applause faded and a wave of nervousness enveloped her. Emily stepped onto the stage, her mural behind her, an explosion of colors and emotions. She took a deep breath, trying to remember everything she had learned. With a trembling voice, she began to speak about the meaning of her work, about how each color represented her struggles and victories, about how art had helped her find herself again. As she spoke, something magical happened. The words flowed from her mouth, and she began to see the expressions on the audience's faces change. Some were moved, others seemed to reflect on their own experiences. Emily realized she was not just sharing her art, but also her truth. The connection with others made her feel strong, and the insecurity that once dominated her began to dissipate. But just when she thought everything was fine, the boy who had criticized her stood up. He seemed more confident now, but the expression on his face was challenging. I think you still don't understand. This isn't art. Art is something that provokes, that makes people feel something deeper. This here, it's just an attempt to stand out, he shot back, his voice echoing through the auditorium. A heavy silence filled the space. Emily felt her heart race, the criticism hitting her like an arrow. But instead of letting it bring her down, something inside her began to ignite. She looked into the boy's eyes, feeling a mix of sadness and compassion. He didn't see the beauty in her art, and perhaps he never would. But in that moment, she understood. That wasn't what mattered. With a new determination, Emily turned to the audience and said, "Art can be many things. For me, it's the way I found to express myself, to heal. Everyone sees it differently, and that's what makes it special. It doesn't have to be perfect or technical. What matters is how we feel when we look at it." Her voice was steady, and she felt a warmth growing inside her. Emily's words resonated in the auditorium, and to her surprise, she saw smiles spreading among those present. The students began to applaud, and the energy in the air shifted. It was as if the audience was united in a moment of understanding and acceptance. The boy, though still wearing a challenging expression, seemed to have lost some of his power. In that instant, Emily realized that true art didn't need anyone's validation. She reflected on her failures, on moments of doubt, and on how each of them had shaped her. That journey wasn't just about winning a contest, but about allowing herself to be vulnerable and connect with others. Her failures had taught her to value authenticity more than any award could. By the end of the presentation, even without winning first place, Emily felt that she had already achieved something much more significant. She had found her voice, overcome her fears, and made friends who supported her unconditionally. Sophia hugged her, and the two celebrated a victory that couldn't be seen in trophies, but in the strength they had gained together. The experience changed not only Emily, but everyone who was present. The friendship between her and Sophia deepened, and new connections were formed. Emily realized that art had the power to transform lives, starting with her own. And so, she continued her journey, ready to create, inspire, and above all, be true to herself. After the presentation, the auditorium began to disperse, but the energy still vibrated in the air. Emily felt that in some way, she had changed. The fear that had once paralyzed her now seemed like a distant shadow. Applauded by her peers and supported by Sophia, she realized that what truly mattered were not the awards, but the courage to expose herself and be authentic. As she walked toward the exit, many students approached to congratulate her. "I loved your mural," said a girl with a wide smile. "Your story touched me. I've also been through tough times." Other voices joined in, sharing their own experiences and showing that art, as Emily had said, connected people in deep and unexpected ways. Emily exchanged glances with Sophia, who nodded encouragingly. The words of support she had offered before the presentation echoed in her mind. "You've already won by having the courage to expose yourself like that." And in that moment, Emily understood that true victory was self-acceptance and the ability to impact the lives of others. As they walked out of the auditorium together, Sophia commented, "You were amazing, Emily. I can't believe you managed to stand firm in the face of that criticism. Your response was perfect." Emily smiled, feeling a wave of gratitude for her friend. "Thank you, Sophia. I really didn't expect things to take this turn. I felt I needed to speak, and it was liberating." The two stopped to admire Emily's mural one last time. The vibrant colors danced under the light of the auditorium, and each brushstroke seemed to tell a story. "You know, I think what you did is more than just art. It's a message," Sophia said, looking at the piece. "You showed that vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness." "I had never thought of it that way," Emily replied, still absorbing everything that had happened. "I think I was so focused on pleasing others that I forgot to listen to my own voice." Sophia nodded. "Many of us do that, but you reminded us that art is a way to connect, to be honest. That's what really matters." As the days went by, Emily began to notice changes in her life. At school, she became more confident and willing to share her ideas. Conversations with classmates grew deeper, and she started getting involved in community art projects. Her passion for art transformed into a tool to help others express themselves, just as she had done. One day, while working on a new mural with a group of friends, one of the students who had criticized her approached. Emily felt a flutter in her stomach, but decided to stay calm. "Hi, can I join you guys?" he asked with a friendlier tone than before. "I realized that what you said in the presentation was true. Art is about connection, and I'd like to learn more about it." Emily looked at him surprised, but at the same time she understood that everyone was in constant evolution. "Sure, come on, let's work together," she replied, smiling. The boy joined the group, and they began discussing ideas, laughing and sharing stories. That interaction brought Emily a sense of peace. She realized that even those who seemed challenging could change and open up to new perspectives. Over time, the mural she was creating with her friends became a symbol of friendship and acceptance. Emily learned the importance of being kind, not only to herself, but also to others. Art has transformed into a safe space where everyone could express themselves without fear of criticism. In a moment of reflection, as she observed the finished mural, Emily thought about her journey. The insecurities that once dominated her were now part of her story, and she felt stronger because of it. The connection she had created with her peers and the ability to inspire others to be authentic became her true reward. In the end, Emily not only learned to accept her own voice, but also helped others find theirs. Thus, the art that had once liberated her had now become a channel for transformation and growth, not just for her but for everyone around her. Emily looked at the finished mural with a mix of pride and accomplishment. The vibrant colors that once represented her insecurities now symbolized friendship, acceptance, and transformation. She remembered how, not long ago, she had been paralyzed by fear and self-criticism. The journey of self-discovery and the courage she found within herself transformed her life and the lives of those around her. Looking at the mural, she realized that each brushstroke not only told her story, but also the story of everyone who joined her in this process. The recognition Emily received after her presentation was a turning point in her life. The criticism that once hurt her now felt like a push that led her to explore new dimensions of her art and her own identity. Through vulnerability, she realized that true strength was not in pleasing others, but in being authentic. The boy who once criticized her had now become an ally, showing that people can change and that sometimes empathy begins when you least expect it. While working on the mural, Emily remembered every conversation she had with her peers, every laugh and every story shared. That experience not only helped her connect with others, but also taught her to be kind to herself. She understood that life is full of new beginnings and that each mistake is an opportunity to learn and grow. These moments of reflection led her to a new understanding of what it really means to be successful. For her, success was not measured in awards or recognition, but in the ability to touch the lives of others and to feel whole in her own skin. Over time, the mural became a meeting point for students from different groups, promoting the exchange of ideas and experiences. What started as an individual project was now a symbol of unity and strength. Art had become a universal language that everyone could understand and appreciate. This emotional connection made Emily feel part of something bigger, a community that valued authenticity and vulnerability. However, the greatest lesson she learned was about friendship. Her relationship with Sophia grew stronger, and together they became advocates for artistic expression in the school. What was an unlikely friendship became a deep bond, proving that sometimes the most impactful connections emerge from the most unexpected places. This friendship not only helped Emily overcome her fears, but also encouraged others to be genuine and express themselves. Reflecting on her journey, Emily felt there was more to do. She wanted to inspire others to open up and find strength in their own stories. So she decided to organize an art exhibition at the school where students could share their works and experiences. Emily knew this was a way to give a voice to those who, like her, needed a safe space to express themselves. Emily's story is not just about overcoming challenges, but about how vulnerability can transform into a powerful force. By encouraging others to open up, she became a beacon of hope and inspiration. And now, it's your turn to act. If you've ever gone through tough times or know someone who needs a little push, don't hesitate to share your story. Let's create a space together where everyone can feel free to express their truths. Like, subscribe, and comment below. Your voice matters, and together we can make a difference.